All right, welcome back. Welcome back. So now let's talk about your contract with your end buyer, right? So, a couple things you're going to notice that it looks very, very similar to your contract with your seller, the owner of record. So, let's go through it here. So, this agreement again made on this is your date, right? So, whatever the date is, December 14th, whatever, that's where it goes. Your name. So on this one, it's a little different. Your name as the seller. And again, we've talked about why we do this as two contracts, and I'll show you in a minute some really cool stuff. So this would be your name. In this case, maybe it's David Olds, or it's CHB Investments, or it's MPL Investments, whatever. Your name. Very simple. Hereafter called the seller and Bob Jones. Bob Jones is our buyer, or Bob Jones Investments LLC. Again, however, the end buyer wants the property to be titled at closing, right? So, what name is going to be in public record as the owner of the property, right? So, whether it's a trust or a corporation, or if they're doing like a 1031 exchange, it will have to be typed in there a very particular way, and your seller should be able to tell you that, right? One thing I tell them is if you are putting this in your company or your corporation, the title company will need a copy of your corporate docs to see who's authorized to sign on behalf of your company. Description of the premises, right? This is, again, just like the other one, and it should match identical to your other contract. 123 Main Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37412. So very simple stuff. Same thing here, parcel number or legal description. This should match your other contract. So these two contracts should be like brother and sister. They're fraternal twins, right? They are almost identical with the exception of a couple of very specific things. Same thing here. Your description includes everything that is at the property. Parcel number, purchase price. This is the amount you have agreed to sell the property to the buyer for. So, if you're under contract with Mrs. Smith at $62,000 and you're selling this for $90,000 to Bob Jones Investments LLC, that's what goes there. Right? Very, very simple. What the title company will do is put these two contracts together, and the difference will be your assignment fee. So, terms. The following terms are applicable to this contract. You'll notice number one is different on the other contract. There is no earnest money. We don't put down earnest money with sellers, right? And the reason is we tell them, hey, we're closing so many properties that, this is going to be a cash sale, and we wire all of our funds all at one time. So, but with your buyer, right, we want our buyer to have some skin in the game, and we want to know that they are going to close. So, earnest money in the amount of $2,000 to be deposited with the seller's title agent or escrow account upon execution of contract for purchase and will be applied towards the total purchase price of the property. This contract is not binding until the EMD is received. So let's go through this. A lot of stuff packed in there. Earnest money, $2,000. It's okay if you are doing properties over $100,000. You should probably be at $5,000. If you're doing bigger properties, $300,000-$400,000, it should probably be $10,000. So this is your contract. You have a Word document, and you can change that if you would like. We let them know that this amount does go towards your purchase price, and it will be deposited with the title company. And it, of course, is applied towards your purchase price. But this contract is not binding until the EMD is received, right? What you do not want to do is have somebody contract your property and then fool around and go 2 weeks and then go, oops, oopsie daisy, not going to close. So if they do that, their EMD is going to be non-refundable, and we are very clear with our buyers that that amount is not refundable. So if you decide to move to Nairobi, Kenya, and join the Peace Corps, that's wonderful. I am all about that, but I cannot give you back your EMD because, Mr. Seller, Bob, here's what's going to happen. As soon as we sign this contract, I'm going to take this property off the market. I'm going to stop showing it to people, and we are going to proceed directly to closing. So I want to make sure that you are serious and you are ready to go. If you are, let's get this contract signed so that you don't lose out on this deal. So, number 2, closing costs, attorney fees, title fees, and other miscellaneous costs related to the transfer of this property are to be paid in the following fashion: buyer to pay all. This matches up with our first contract, right? Everybody understands when they're buying from a wholesaler, the contract price is net to me, net to you. What that means is the buyer pays closing costs. So I will tell somebody, hey, we have already done our side of the work. All of the closing costs are paid by the buyer. So if you allow this to change, if you allow a buyer to say, cross something out and say, I'm only going to pay for my side, that seller side is going to come out of your assignment fee, right? The seller's not going to pay it because you already have a contract with them saying that you're going to pay it. So anytime you fool with who's paying the closing costs, you're going to cause the title company to have to do a bunch of work, and chances are that cost and those fees are going to come out of your assignment fee. So buyer to pay all, very simple. So this does not include any fees or costs associated with clearing the title. So if Mrs. Smith needs a bunch of affidavits of heirships or a monument of title, or she's got to pay back taxes, or she's got to pay a bankruptcy attorney or a probate attorney or whatever it is, that is on Mrs. Smith. That is not on the buyer. That's not the buyer's responsibility. And again, do not be weirded out by buyer to pay all. This is very, very standard. Again, in 150 deals a year, maybe 2 people give us any grief about it. And if it's a $50,000 deal, I might entertain that, right? So again, this is your business. You run it how you want. I'm just showing you what I do in my business. But, buyer paying closing costs is very, very standard because, Mr. Buyer, these are deeply discounted properties. And, we only sell to cash buyers like yourself, serious cash buyers, landlords, contractors, and investors. So that is that. Number 3, any taxes will be appropriately prorated between all parties at closing. Hey, Bob, here's our deal. It's a 1-page contract. Very simple, very straightforward. We guarantee clear title and proration of taxes. In our contract, it specifically says that, so you will not be responsible for any back taxes, right? That is always the first question that a wholesale buyer will ask us: are there back taxes? Honestly, because I don't think they know another question to ask, and that's just the easiest, lowest hanging fruit. So we want to assure them absolutely not. All of our deals have clear title. We guarantee clear title and proration of taxes. So bam, done. Closing to be said as soon as possible for all parties, but no later than, right? This is very, 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 very important date. You want to know what your expiration date is on your contract with the seller, your contract 1 with the owner of a record, because that's when you turn into a pumpkin Cinderella. So if that date is December 15th, you want to be have on your contract with your end buyer, your contract 2, a date prior to that, right? So you would not want to put on here December 19th. Yes, your other contract gives you some extension room and a little bit of wiggle room, but you don't want December 19th to turn into December 30th, right? Because then, it's okay, like, if you're going to make sure everybody's on board, but if you've got a seller that's already a little bit, skittish as it is, you want to make sure this is closing ahead of time. So again, this is why, right out of the gate, you should always hear that ticking in your ear to get this property sold. So again, I don't recommend putting a date beyond what your other date is on your contract 1, unless you are very clear with your seller. Hey, sorry, this is taking a little bit longer than I thought. Are you good with closing on December 30th? Are you great? Maybe in that case, you might want to lock them down on an addendum to change the closing date on the contract. So all parties grant any additional time necessary to complete the closing paperwork. Again, that will buy you a couple of days, maybe 15, like if everybody's cool. But, it's not going to get you 30, 60, 90 days. So it's like, that's not going to happen. And that's not the right thing to do, to lock somebody into a contract for that long without them being aware. Number 5, buyer understands that the property is sold as is with no warranties implied or stated from the seller. Again, same thing. This is just a duplicate off of the last contract, we are selling this. We're not going to do any repairs for our buyers, just like we're not going to ask Mrs. Smith to do any repairs for us. And, it's as is, where is, the day it closes is all yours. Very simple. Number 6, buyer understands that this may be an assignment of the seller's contract with the owner of record, and the purchase price listed includes the assignment fee, right? So I talked about this in the longer video, dealing with buyers. Sometimes it will come up that, or it used to come up, it doesn't anymore because now we have number 6. So it used to come up that a title company or a particular underwriter would be like, hey, I know this looks like, 2 different closings and I know what you're doing, but we actually want an assignment contract, right? So this does away with that. Buyer understands that this may be an assignment of the seller's contract, right? So again, we're not hiding anything. I may not point it out and put a bunch of fireworks around number 6, but in our contract, it clearly states that this is maybe an assignment, right? Because sometimes we do double close, and I'll just use the same contract, but that it's an assignment of the seller's contract. Seller in this case is you or me, with the owner of record, and the purchase price includes the assignment fee. Because again, we don't want to be negotiating our assignment fee. So, right, very simple. This contract may act as an assignment of contract if needed. So if that underwriter or title agent calls you and says, hey, I know what we're doing, we're all cool with it, but the underwriter at First American or Old Republic or whoever it is really wants an assignment contract, hey, have them look at number 6. That should clear it up. This contract will act as an assignment of contract if needed. Bam, done, right? 1 in 500, that guy's going to make you do one. That's fine. If you do, you do, whatever. But this will knock out most of the need to do that. Number 8, Bob, I told you I guarantee clear title on all my deals. So, you will be able to get a warranty deed and title insurance at closing. Now, let's talk about this, because there are going to be some times where you cannot provide clear title. What are those times, right? Maybe there's something funny on the title. There's an old lien that a title company cannot clear off. Maybe it's a property bought at a tax sale. So those properties cannot be issued title policies by the standard nationwide title companies. There are always some hokey little offshoot title company that will do it, but it's not going to be transferable down the road. So to like First American or Old Republic. So if that is the case where you cannot get clear title, you have to tell your buyer that you would want to cross this line out. And it's okay. Like, I've sold a lot of tax deed properties, but they need to be priced accordingly, and it's not going to have the same value as a property where you can get clear title. So if that's the case, that's fine. Delete this line out, or just draw a line through it and then put something underneath in number 12 that says buyer understands that this property was bought at a tax sale and cannot be issued title insurance at closing. Something simple like that. But for the most part, 95% of what you do, unless you specialize in tax deeds, you're going to be able to get clear title. So any furniture, fixtures, attachments, and debris located in and around the property not removed prior to closing become the ownership of the buyer. Hey, Bob, tenants are moving out. They're supposed to take everything, but if anything is left, just throw it in the dumpster. Maybe you find some gold in there. Maybe it'll be a little national treasure find, and you'll get something worthwhile. But yeah, as of closing, everything will be yours, right? Because we're telling them this. This is why this matches up with the first contract, so that there's no problem with the seller showing up a week later to get their favorite refrigerator or deep freezer. So if you leave it, you've lost it, right? So 10, buyer has completed any and all due diligence on this property prior to entering into the contract, right? So here, this is very important. We want our buyers to understand this, right? Because sometimes buyers are going to call you and say, hey, can I get a due diligence period? Right? Due diligence means they have time to go and do a bunch of inspections and things, right? But understand this, during that due diligence period, and that would be something, if you want to give them a due diligence period, maybe you do, you would have to cross this out and write underneath the bottom, buyer has 5 days due diligence. So if you give a buyer due diligence period, that gives them that many days or hours or whatever it is to look at the property and bounce out on you. So here's what we tell people. Hey, Bob, I understand if you need to look at the property before signing the contract. 100% do not mind. I'm cool with that. I completely understand. But here, Bob, we get a lot of interest on these properties, so I prefer you to do it before you contract the property, because once we get to the contract phase, we're sending everything to the title company. We're ready to close within 4 or 5 days. So I don't want it to be a case where you go in there and you don't like the red wall that the tenant painted and want to cancel the contract, and then what it does is it hurts me because I've told other buyers that we've sold the property and we're ready to close. So when you're ready to sign the contract, let me know. We'll get you the contract, we'll get it signed, we'll collect the EMD, we'll get it to the title company, and then we're ready to close. So I don't recommend you doing due diligence periods. Have them do all inspections prior to contracting, right? And what this does is this puts the sense of urgency on the buyer, because you will have buyers that will want to contract every property you got, because now it locks it up and they've got time. And we don't want that. What they don't want to do is they don't want to be competing, right? And I'm not in the business of trying to run up the price if I'm asking $90,000. But I'm also not in the business of locking up a property, because what's going to happen is the second you lock this up with Bob, 2 more buyers are going to call you and you're going to go, oh, hey, no, I sold that property. And then 4 days later, you've got to call them back and go, yeah, didn't sell because the buyer, whatever, right? Because when you've got to go back to somebody a second time, they always have a sense that something happened, and now you've lost a little bit of control, and they know that they're maybe your only hope. So don't do due diligence unless you absolutely have to. There are some times we'll do it. We're 30 days out on a contract. It's been out. We've marketed it. We've sent it to everybody that we can. And there's only one person interested. I mean, literally one person. And they're like, yeah, I'm out of town. I need a couple days due diligence. Like, I'll give it to them. But it's usually as a last resort. We just don't do that. Now, if you are selling to a hedge fund or an institutional buyer, they will require a due diligence period no matter what. That's just how they operate. So you're going to treat them a little bit different than you treat your normal local cash buyer. Send your cash buyer over to look at the property and then do the contract. And I will also say to people, hey, Bob, I understand that you want to take a look at this property. Not a problem. I get it. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have a walkthrough probably next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. Pick a day, give yourself a little bit of time. And I'm going to have, probably the top 2 or 3 serious buyers come through and let them look at it at the same time. But hey, Bob, here's what happened last time we did that the other day is, we're asking 90, or our purchase price on this is 90. And, it ended up getting bid up to 102 because, the 2 of them had to sit there and outbid each other. So, 100%, I get you on a walkthrough. Let's do that if you're not comfortable with contracting it based off the pictures and video that I've shown you. So, but a lot of times, probably 15-20% of the time, buyers will buy stuff sight unseen, because this is a very hot market. And we do a really good job of showing them pictures and videos so that they can make a decision from their sofa. So that's due diligence, right? So the buyer has completed their due diligence on the property prior to entering into this contract and accepts the property in its as-is condition with no warranties made or implied by the seller, right? I don't ever want them to come back and go, oh, hey, this property line is different from what I thought, or this billboard is located on the property, or whatever, right? My contract says I'm not making any warranties. And this protects you from somebody coming back to you later down the road because the buyer has signed that they've done their due diligence on the property, right? This will keep you from getting sued by some cash buyer who didn't understand what they were doing. So very simple, very important. I definitely would not take that out if you can help it. So in the event the buyer is unable to close before the date stated in Section 4, Section 4 talks about when the closing date is going to happen. The buyer and the seller, the 2 people at the top of this contract, hereby authorize the title company or closing agency to release earnest money to the seller, which is you, upon demand. Here's why this is in here. One time I had a contract with a buyer. He put down $2,000 EMD, and then he disappeared. Like gone. Didn't answer emails, didn't answer phone calls, nothing. Like I didn't know if he got abducted by aliens, and wasn't able to close. So I resold the property to somebody else, closed. That's great. And I called the title company and I said, Patty, send me that $2,000 from Chuck. And she said, yeah, It does say non-refundable, but your contract doesn't really tell me what to do if like Chuck doesn't show up. So I need you to sign a release. I'm like, Chuck's gone. Like, I don't know where he's at. And turns out later down the road, he left for business on a business trip because he did roofs or something. But you have to tell the title company what to do if the buyer that signs your contract and puts up EMD does not perform. And this solves that problem. Bam, it releases it to you. So again, all of these these things are, it's a very tight contract. There's a lot of stuff packed in there, and it's 12 years of experience that will probably keep you out of a lot of trouble. So that's it, right? Very simple. Seller is going to be you. So your title, your name, your email, your phone number. Again, always tell the title company all the information because that will save them from a bunch of calls and emails to you. Or if your transaction company is handling this, Easy REI Closings, this will solve that problem, right? We want to tell everybody what we're doing and be transparent. Buyer, this is for your buyer to fill out, right? Buyer signs it, dates it, and you can do these with DocuSign or anything like that too. The buyer's name. So let's just say here it's like the 123 Main Street Trust, right? Well, who the heck is the 123 Main Street Trust? It may not even be created yet. It may be created by the buyer for this property at closing. So we need to know who is the person to get a hold of here. If it's Bob Jones, it's Bob Jones. If it's a trust or a company, we want his name here, right? So that's his name. How do we get a hold of him? Because we're going to have to probably send this guy documents and ask him questions, right? Email, a good email, phone number. Like these are all crucial things. Do not leave these off your contract. And how is the buyer funding this deal? So important. We talked about it in the video. Most buyers are going to be cash, right? I just literally type in cash. But sometimes it may be a hard money lender, private money, 1031 exchange, HELOC, whatever it is, the title company needs to know because they will prepare a different set of documents for all those different scenarios, right? So cash is very easy, but if it's a private lender, well, the private lender is going to need a mortgage. The hard money people are going to need a mortgage. Hard money people need to see your closing documents a day before so they can have final approval on your HUD, your closing statement. 1031, the title company will need to talk to the 1031 administrator. So do not surprise your title company the day before closing and say, hey, yeah, my buyer, I thought he was cash, but he's really using, a hard money lender. And here's their information. The title company probably is not going to be able to close tomorrow because that's going to require them to do a bunch of extra work. So if it's cash, great, right? Cash here. If it's hard money, any of those other things, right? Here's where you should at least handwrite in. Here's his private lender. Here's the private lender's phone number and email. Here's the hard money lender. Here's their email and phone number. If it's a 1031 exchange, here's the 1031 exchange administrator. Give the title company all of the information so that they can plan what is about to happen. Again, this is a roadmap for the title company, and they need to understand where they're driving to, right? How to get there. Do not run them into a bunch of potholes because they will not want to do business with you. Be a good partner and help them to understand, what it is that they're doing for you. So that's it. That's a run through of the sales agreement. How I do it with Bob. We're standing there, or I send this to him. I'm like, Bob, hey, super easy, one-page contract, so easy. A third grader can understand it. Let me go through it with you here real quick. So we've got the date, here's the, today's date. This is me, David Olds. I'm the seller, and you are Bob Jones Investments LLC. Is that correct? Is that the way your company is titled? Yeah, great. That's how you want this property titled, or you want the title vested, depending upon where you're at in the country. They use different nomenclature terms, right? Perfect. Or Bob may say, hey, I'm going to open a new company. Put this in here. Great. No problem. Either way, with your company, Bob, I need to make sure I get, so I can forward to the title company, all of your corporate docs, your operating agreement, all of that stuff, because the title company will need to know who is authorized to sign for your company or your trust or whatever it is. So, and if Bob doesn't want to send it to you, no problem. Shoot it directly to Megan at Key Title and let her have it. But she will need that within the next day or two, because believe it or not, a titles company will do a search on the buyer to make sure they have no liens against them. Or judgments. So again, description of the property. Here we are, 123 Main Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37412. Here is the parcel ID, which is actually your tax ID number. Bob, we've agreed to $90,000. That's our purchase price. EMD, you're going to get me, you're going to send to the title company within the next couple hours, or you can give me a cashier's check, $2,000. That is EMD. That, of course, is applied to your purchase price and will be deducted on the closing statement. So that's not just something I get to put in Hip National Bank and keep. Let's see here. What do we got, Bob? Closing costs. Buyer's going to pay closing costs. I told you, we'll prorate taxes at closing. Closing to be set for. Does December 13th work for you? That's about 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away. We should have all of our closing documents done by then. Is that cool? Yes. Fantastic. Of course, Bob, we're selling it as is. We're not going to go in and remodel it before we close. EMD, not refundable to the buyer. So again, if you decide to move to Kenya to be in the Peace Corps, that's wonderful. But because we're going to stop marketing this property, I'm not going to show it to anybody else, and we're going to be ready to close here very quickly. EMD is non-refundable. So once we sign this and get the EMD, we are ready to go. We're going to get this property closed for you so you can get your tenants in there, or you can get your rehab crew in there, whatever it is. So again, number 8, Bob, contingent on clear title. We guarantee clear title on all of our properties. We've already started the title search. That's why we're closing at Key Title or whoever your title company is. And if for some reason something has happened that they didn't see, I'm going to give you back your EMD. No bubbles, no troubles. We're still going to be friends because I want to sell you a lot of properties in the future. I'm not one of those guys that's trying to screw you out of $2,000. We're a professional company, and my goal is to sell you 10 properties a year for the next 10 years, not just one property. So cool. So anything that's left in the property as of the date of closing, of course, is yours. You've done all of your due diligence. We're entering into this contract. It's as is, all that stuff. And that's pretty much it. If you disappear and get abducted by aliens, they're going to release the EMD to me. So very straightforward, Bob, super easy. Here's what I need from you. I need you to sign here, date here. Let's handwrite, or I'll type in your name, email, phone number so that the buyer or so that the title company knows how to get a hold of you. And how are you funding this? Is it cash, hard money? What are you doing? And you should kind of know that this by the time you're doing the contract. And that's it. That's exactly how I explain it to them. I don't spend a lot of time going over every single line. If you do every line, there's going to be a million questions. But I do tell them, hey, Bob, I'm going to send you a copy of this so you'll have it for your records. Same one that I'm sending to the title company. That's it. Don't make it any more complicated than it has to be. It is a one-page contract. Very simple. I'm selling, you're buying. Here's the purchase price. We guarantee clear title, proration of taxes. That's it. And when I'm doing it over the phone, that's pretty much how I explain it to them. Hey, I'm going to shoot you over this contract. We've agreed to $90,000. Very straightforward. Properties as is. We guarantee clear title, proration of taxes. Sign it, shoot it back to me, get me the EMD, and we'll move on with life. We'll get this thing ready to close for you. So that's it. That is the contract between you and your end buyer. So if you have any questions, let me know.